So I've been growing my own veggies for a couple seasons now, but I've never planted eggplant for one main reason. My husband can't stand it. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Seamus here might be an eggplant lover just like me, right? So I'm gonna try it for the first time this year, and I've called in Danielle for a couple pointers.
Sarah, I'm so glad you called me about eggplant.
I was hesitant to tackle it without you because I've heard that it can be tricky.
They can be a little bit tricky, but the key is to get them off to a good start and then do a few minor tweaks along the way. Let me show you. So what varieties did you grow this year?
I picked 3 different varieties. First is Black King, which is a large black skin variety with sort of your classic eggplant flavor. Then Rosita, which is an heirloom that looks beautiful. It's like 8-inch pinkish lavender fruits. And then Swallow, which is an Asian type without that bitterness that you associate with larger eggplants. I started them from seed about 10 weeks ago and then transplanted them to larger cups, but it's taken a really long time for them to size up. Seamus grows faster.
Yeah, the eggplants take a while to actually germinate for one, so it was good that you put that heat mat underneath your seedling tray. But yeah, several weeks really to size up and be large enough to go into the garden. But here we are and they look great, so let's get them planted.
Okay.
You ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. First, you want to pull your seedlings out of their individual growing cells and tease the roots with the tip of a pencil or a pen. Next, snip off any of the lower leaves that appear dead or damaged or just don't look right. Finally, dig a hole with your trowel deep enough to sink the plant into the soil as deep as it was in the pot. Unlike tomatoes, eggplants shouldn't be planted any deeper than that. Each plant should be spaced at least 12 inches away from its nearest neighbor. Hey Sarah, these look great.
So I've heard that pests can be a real problem with eggplant. Is there anything I can do to try to prevent them?
Actually, you're right, yeah. Flea beetles are the biggest problem for eggplants. They kind of poke these little holes all through the leaves and they make your plants look like Swiss cheese. A lot of times it doesn't kill the plant, but it really makes them less productive. I've got an idea on how we can prevent them from kind of setting their eggs and getting to our eggplant though, and it involves those cages over there. Let's go get them.
Aren't these tomato cages?
They are, but you know what? They're gonna provide great support for our plants because when eggplants get overloaded with fruit, they can be a little top heavy. And these are also gonna provide a great framework so we can drape some floating row covers over them and protect the eggplants from getting damaged by flea beetles. You want me to show you how?
Yeah.
Push the ends of each cage firmly into the ground so that each eggplant is centered in the middle of the support. Take a section of the floating row cover, that is, if you can get your pet to stop wrestling with it or playing with it, and wrap it around the cage. You should cover the top of the cage too, and be sure to secure the bottom with fabric staples. The end result should look something like a weird white ice cream cone.
Ta-da!
It looks like some kind of weird modern art sculpture, doesn't it?
Yeah, or something from the X-Files.
Well, it really should work well though. And the great thing about having the floating row covers around the outside is that it creates this little mini warmth tunnel for the eggplants to really mature faster.
Right, I used this for the arugula before. It lets in sunlight and rain, right?
Exactly. But you are going to want to take it off, Sarah, when the temperatures start pushing into the 80s on a regular basis, because we don't want to fry the eggplants in there.
At least not yet.
Exactly. And that'll come later in the cooking segments. The other thing about when it starts getting into the 80s, by that time, the flea beetle population will have subsided and it won't be as much of a threat to the plants.
Okay, I'll keep my fingers crossed. What do I need to do about fertilizing though?
We won't have to worry about that for a couple of weeks, but don't worry, I'll come back before that next step.
Great. Seamus and I will make you lunch.
Sounds wonderful.